So Pokemon cards, some are a few dollars while others can climb into the thousands. Though what's making Pokemon cards so expensive right now? And more importantly, can these prices actually last, or are collectors just throwing their hard-earned money down the drain? I'm going to be covering that in today's video. Now also, if this is your first time here, my name is Phil and I run this Pokemon collecting and investing YouTube channel. Please feel free to like and subscribe to the content. I'd really love to have you on board. So with all that said, something that a lot of new collectors wonder is why are Pokemon cards so expensive? And it's not just new people that are entering the hobby, right? I mean, parents are also curious. Like, hey, my kids are collecting Pokemon cards. Are they really worth this much? Or, they'll Google one of the Pokemon cards that their kid pulled and they're like, I'm looking online and this price can't be right, can it? Well, the answer is yes, it is true that some Pokemon cards are incredibly valued, though not all. Just because something is shiny and it's a Pokemon card does not mean it equals value. There are many more factors to consider, which include, some of them are like the pull rate difficulty, the design of the artwork, if the particular card is being used in the metagame for competitive TCG players, and a lot of other factors, right? So traditionally, a more popular Pokemon will usually be more valuable than an obscure or less desired Pokemon. Though what's really interesting and what can confuse new collectors is even if everything is equal on paper, it doesn't actually mean it will be equal in value. So just as a quick example, right? Here we have both Greninja and Ursaluna. Now, both of these are from the Twilight Masquerade expansion pack. Both of these are special illustration rares, and both are incredibly difficult to pull with very similar pull rates. Though the Greninja is roughly 7 times the value of the Ursaluna, and this is because Greninja is far more popular as a Pokemon, and it is a final stage evolution starter Pokemon, along with the fact that the artwork is more unique, along with the fact that the card appeals to a wider audience, which ultimately creates more demand, and you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand how simple supply and demand works. A lot of collectors want this in collection, not a lot are available. So even though cards' characteristics may look identical on paper, there are still a lot of factors that come into play. So you may pull a special illustration rare card and think you've got something super valuable, but if the market demand isn't there, it means little. Now, with that out of the way, I suppose a bigger question comes up. Why are some of these Pokemon cards so valuable? So there's a few reasons to explain that, but simply put, the recent surge in Pokemon card prices can be attributed to a few key factors, right? First and foremost, we should probably get the big one out of the way, which was the pandemic. And even though I just said recently, this kind of feels like it's not becoming that recent anymore. And a lot of years have now passed since the pandemic, but for some reason, a lot of us still think of that as recent. But anyway, this has caused a lot of problems with the prices of cards. The pandemic played a significant role in bringing the hobby back to a global stage. I mean, celebrities started collecting cards, and then they influenced millions of people, and also people were stuck at home, and there was a widespread rediscovery of old hobbies, which included collecting Pokemon games, playing vintage video games, the whole lot, right? Now, it was no secret that a lot of people also received financial support to keep the economy afloat during this time. Now, many people decided to use this disposable income on their hobbies to keep themselves entertained, and what was supposedly meant to be a phase has now just stuck around and become part of pop culture. Another significant factor is the powerful force of nostalgia, right? So those who grew up with Pokemon in the 90s now have the financial means to invest in the cards that they loved as kids, especially the rare ones. So Pokemon cards fueled a deep emotional connection for a lot of people, so this generational interest has just kept the market strong, and it continues to push the prices up. And honestly, it doesn't seem like the hobby is going anywhere, and in fact, the hobby is growing every day. So collecting has also become a very social hobby, as many people love to attend shows, festivals, and the like, right? Now, it's not that these things weren't happening before the pandemic, though the attendance and how many people now attend these shows is just becoming stronger and stronger. Though I thought it would be good to show you some of the current expensive modern Pokemon cards and kind of explain why they are at these prices. So I'm about to go into that right now. Alrighty, so I'm on some of these cards, and some of these cards are the top chase cards of the recent sets of Pokemon, right? I'm going to be covering some Sword and Shield sets, which was Generation 8, and some Generation 9 sets, which Generation 9 is the current generation, right? Okay, I'm going to explain why some of these are valuable, and yes, it is true. A lot of these cards have gone pretty crazy in price, and it's very common that a lot of people will pull one of these cards, they cannot believe the value when they see it, or they search it on eBay, or they go on TCG Player, and they kind of want to be like, hey, is this true? So I'm going to be taking you through that right now. So the first one here is the Greninja Special Illustration Rare from Twilight Masquerade. And I did mention this in the video just before. This card is crazy cool, man, but I just want to take you through the price. I'm going to go on the 6-month graph because Twilight Masquerade just released a little less than 6 months ago. So you can see here, it came out, it was sitting at $118 straight away. It was a very desired card, and then it kind of climbed up and it was sitting at a $245 card, and now it's kind of flatlined, and consistently it's sitting at this $278 $281 card. To understand why this card is so valuable, there's a few reasons. Firstly, it's one of the top tier rarities, which is the Special Illustration Rare. Secondly, it is Greninja. Now, Greninja is a huge fan favorite, right? So for a lot of Generation 1 people, or people that came in Generation 1, our favorite starter Pokemon, or collectively, I guess the mainstream favorite starter Pokemon was Charizard, right? Which was Charmander's final evolution. Greninja is Froakie's final evolution for Generation 6. Now, Greninja for many is seen as Generation 6's Charizard, right? This is a very, very loved Pokemon. It's also very well represented in other media, such as the Smash Bros series. You can actually use Greninja as a playable character. So Greninja is a very loved Pokemon. A lot of people who grew up with the Nintendo 3DS and they started on Generation 6, which was the Kalos region, also have huge connections to Greninja, right? So for this reason, Greninja is almost like a secondary Charizard for younger collectors who are now slowly growing up and have disposable income. They haven't got the millennial income from the Charizard era for the Generation 1, but they're slowly into Pokemon cards and they're slowly having more money, which causes a lot more people to be desired for this card. So this card is no surprise that it's getting expensive, and this will very likely be one of the most expensive cards of Generation 9. Though it'll be very interesting to see if we have more kind of ace Pokemon that come through. Moving on to the next one, which is the Magikarp Illustration Rare. This is from Paldea Evolved. This is now not a Special Illustration Rare. This is an interesting one. This is an Illustration Rare, which is technically one tier of rarity below, but still, it's very hard to pull, right? You can see here the Magikarp. So when this I can't go that back from when it came out, but when it did come out, it was sitting at around a $50 card, and it kind of climbed up, and it's sitting here now at a $105 card, and then it kind of boomed to a $150 card, and then now it's sitting at around 110 USD. Quite expensive for a card that, yes, it is difficult to pull, but nowhere near as difficult as the Greninja, but you can see it's sitting at a $110 card. Now, this card is actually really interesting because this was actually technically the first chase card of the Scarlet and Violet era before Greninja came out, and everyone was so obsessed with it, right? Kind of spiked very quickly in value, as you can see what happened on this graph here. Magikarp is a massive fan favorite. Firstly, it's Generation 1. Secondly, it is an amazing artwork from the illustrator Shinji Kanda, which is he's an exceptional artist. He creates very unique artistic style of cards. Very, very cool. This card is absolutely sensational. It's Magikarp, so, you know, Gyarados is the final evolution of Magikarp, but a lot of people who grew up in Generation 1 have huge connections to Magikarp, so this kind of just pushed the price further, and it wasn't that much of a meme card. I wouldn't call it a meme Pokemon card, because the artwork is absolutely sensational. It actually deserves all the praise it can get, but I think a lot of people just loved the Magikarp, and it was very quirky, and it was kind of a little bit out of left field. So I think because of that, it was just attractive to collectors, and people just all said, you know what, this is an amazing card. So that's the reason for the price of this card. Moving on to the next one, which is a Sword and Shield card, which is Giratina V Alternate Art. Generation 4 legendaries are very desired. So, you know, you got Palkia, Dialga, you got Arceus, and of course you've got Giratina V. This is also a Shinji Kanda artwork for the same illustrator for that Magikarp, and you can probably see the similarities. Very similar stylistic approach. They're absolutely sensational. Now, obviously Giratina is a very desired Pokemon, but the fact is that the artwork is just out of this world. This Giratina V is one of the coolest Pokemon cards in existence, and of course, it is very hard to pull. It is one of the chase cards from Lost Origin, which is a later Sword and Shield expansion pack. And look, yeah, the price is going pretty crazy as well. So you can see this one was sitting at $235. Then when the alternate art boom happened earlier this year, it went to 480 USD per copy. That is really, really expensive, man. You got to think, when you pull a card and it's 480 US, you have literally 100 times your worth from the pack, which is incredible, right? Though you have to also understand that the pull rates for this are very, very rare. Moving down, you can see now it's sitting at around 334. And if we pull that into the 3-month graph, you can kind of see it's kind of going and trickling a little bit down, with some slight stabilization also happening right now. You know, I don't know where this card's going to go. It's a very desired card, though again, you know, these are enormous prices. Very, very expensive cards at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see where this one goes. Moving on to the next one. Now, the next one is the Umbreon VMAX. Now, this is one of the most iconic Pokemon cards from Sword and Shield. This card, I'm going to go through the prices right now. They're going to explain why this card is so highly desirable, okay? So you can see last year it was sitting at around 554 USD per raw copy. That means if you literally pulled this out of a pack and then listed it on eBay as an auction, you would likely be hitting that price or close to it. Moving forward, you can see then when the boom happened, this kind of climbed to a $958 card. Then it kind of dipped down a little bit to $845, and now it's at $926. It is a very, very desired Pokemon card. This card also released during the hype period of the pandemic when everyone kind of got back into Pokemon cards. And of course, Umbreon is one of the most loved Pokemon, and it is an evolution. Evolutions are very desired Pokemon. Collectors, everyone loves their evolutions, and they're very, very generational. The fact that this Umbreon is probably the most favorite evolution for a lot of people is also a big factor at play. And not only that, the artwork is sensational, and also it's about a 1 in 1,600 to 1 in 1,700 chance to pull, meaning it is a very, very rare card to pull. So, you know, it's got amazing artwork, desired Pokemon, very loved Pokemon from a very desired set. All these things mixed together has caused this incredible price for this card. Moving forward with these evolutions, a lot of evolutions also contain high prices. As you can see, another one from the same set of Evolving Skies, same set as that Umbreon, this is the Leafeon VMAX. Now you can see the price for this. I'm going to go last year, sitting around 174 USD. Boom to around 355, and now it's kind of dipped down to around 266 USD. Amazing card artwork. Again, an evolution card, highest rarity you can get for it. And of course, it's Leafeon, it's very desired, Evolving Skies. All these things mixed together make it very desirable. Same thing with the next evolution, which is the Glaceon VMAX. Glaceon VMAX, you can see the price, 136 USD, spiked to 315 USD, and now it's kind of tapered down to 233 USD. Very expensive Pokemon card, very, very hard to pull, incredibly rare card. Moving on to another very desired evolution. Now, this one is from Fusion Strike, and it is known as Espeon VMAX. Now, Espeon is, again, a very loved Pokemon, very, very difficult to pull as well. But you can see this one was sitting at around 124 USD, spiked enormously to 344 USD, and now it's kind of tapered down to 215. But you just got to think, man, if you buy one of these booster packs and you pull one of these chase cards, that is a lot of money, man. Like it's not even a joke on how expensive some of these cards can be. Mind you, if you bought a booster box, it's very likely you would also have smaller cards in there as well that you could sell or you can keep in your collection, whatever you do. So they are very highly valued. And of course, a lot of people want them. It's just a supply and demand game. A lot of people collect Pokemon cards. A lot of people want them in their binder. You know, it is a little bit of a status thing as well. So a lot of people try and buy these cards to kind of show off and do all those kind of things as well. It also becomes a little bit of a thing. The harder something is to have, the more you want it. It's kind of that cat and mouse kind of game that happens as well. A lot of these Pokemon cards fall into that trap as well. Moving on to one of the next ones, which is the Gengar VMAX, one of the coolest cards from Fusion Strike. Same kind of set as that Espeon that I just showed you then. It's from Fusion Strike. You can see price for this last year was 183 USD. Boomed all the way to 407 USD, and now it's sitting at around $310. Very, very expensive as well. And this again is one of the chase cards from the Sword and Shield era, which is one of the most desired eras for Pokemon collecting. We are currently in the Scarlet and Violet era, which is Generation 9. Moving on to some Generation 9 cards. This is the Charizard Paladin Fates Special Illustration Rare, the shiny variation. Now, Scarlet and Violet prices have been kind of crazy, but not as crazy as Sword and Shield. There's a few reasons for that, but you can see the Greninja obviously is very expensive at the moment. But this is a Generation 9 Paladin Fates Charizard. So you can see the price of this. It kind of went out the floodgates, 184, couldn't hold that, dropped down all the way to $103, and right now it's been quite stable, sitting at a $105 card. It has been quite stable in the market. Very cool card, very awesome Charizard artwork as well. Now, one of the cool ones as well, which is a very desired card at the moment, is the Charizard from Pokemon 151, which is the English chase card for the set. And you can see this one's gone a little bit crazy as well, all up and down. You can see it came out at 111, boomed all the way to 134, and currently now it's sitting at around 121. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the future of this Charizard, but again, it is a rare card. It is Charizard, one of the most fan favorite Pokemon cards in Pokemon Special Illustration Rare. And yes, some of these cards do get incredibly valuable as time goes on. Right, so with all that said, a question that arises is, will Pokemon cards maintain their value in the future? And it is a bit of a tricky question that comes up because not everything can stay always up. Things that go up tend to come down, right? I mean, look what happened to vintage Pokemon cards. They crashed heavily in value, though there was a very specific reason why vintage Pokemon cards crashed, and that is revealed within this video on screen right here. Within this video on screen, I look over vintage Pokemon cards and explain what caused their crash. If you'd like to learn more about why vintage Pokemon cards crashed, click that video on screen and you can learn more about it there. I'll see you there.